Well, we all know that Georgia's got a big struggle on their hand with this 2024 season. In fact, our buddies over at ESPN say that Georgia is playing in five of the biggest games in 2024. Five of like the top 14 games. It's quite an amazing set of hurdles that the Dogs have got coming up. Matt DeBerry is going to join me right now. Matt, we know it's out at Alabama, Texas, at Ole Miss. Just those three games alone make it very challenging for Georgia. That's included in this group, and we'll take it from there. But no one did any favors for the Dogs in terms of schedule making.
No, especially on the road. Going to Austin, Texas is going to be tough. Going to Tuscaloosa. I know Alabama's got the new staff, but I don't expect that to be a bad team at all. That place is going to be rocking at night. At Kentucky, a place we've talked about for a while, Dean. It's never easy to play up there. In Oxford, I mean, that's a program that feels like it's on the rise. They were really good last year, and Georgia absolutely crushed them. I think they got better, at least on paper, they're better. They got a returning quarterback that is maybe top 10 in the country, maybe a little better than that. That's going to be tough. I think Tennessee, even though that's a home game, they'll be better than they were last year. I think that's a program that's doing things the right way. I think Josh Heupel knows what he's doing, and he's making them better. So overall, it's really tough to find a team that has a tougher schedule. I know Florida's is really tough, but they don't have the road schedule that Georgia does. So it is going to be really tough. And I still think Georgia might be the best team in the country. I don't think any of us really know, but you could absolutely make the case that they are. And it's going to be a tough road. I do think that they've got a couple bye weeks probably at the right time, but they're going to be tested early.
All right, again, now this is it's June. We got to take all this with a grain of salt because FPI is not a real thing at all. But that's what this is a combination of. Is they are rating Georgia at Texas as the biggest game of the season, and I hate to be this way, Matt, but is it possible we should maybe slow down a little bit on Texas? I mean, like, are they? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because it's still Texas, but it felt like they took a big step forward, at least making it to the playoff. Now they stumped their toe in a game where they probably should have won. I thought they would win that game. They didn't, but returning quarterback, they added a lot of playmakers to the transfer portal. They're recruiting at a high level. I think they're going to be a really good team. And just the fact that those two programs, right, a powerhouse, which Georgia is, they're a powerhouse. Texas is trying to be. They're not there yet, and I don't think anyone believes they aren't there yet. But in Austin, especially with the interconference, them being in the SEC now, it's going to be a game that everyone watches. And I'd probably say Texas is the third or fourth best team going into the season. I think it's probably Georgia, Ohio State, and then maybe a toss-up between Oregon and Texas. So I get the hype. That Oregon-Ohio State game is going to be a big one too. But, I understand why people are so excited to watch Georgia go play in Austin. I don't know if they've ever played out there. You might know, but it's going to be a big deal. So I get it, but I'm not sure we should be announcing Texas as this great program that could win a national title. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I just said I think they're probably a top 5 team, so I get the hype.
So let me go through the list here. So Georgia is, of the 20 games they list as the biggest games, and they've got a numerical thing by it, and that's fine. But I actually think, and I'll get to this contrarian point in a minute here, Georgia's 5 games are in the top 12. So you've got Texas, Georgia at 1, Georgia, Bama at 2, Ohio State going to Oregon 3. I think you could make the case that might be the biggest game. But anyway, Ohio State at Penn State. Well, we already know what the outcome of that's going to be, so I don't see how it can be real big. Go ahead, Matt.
Is that the big whiteout game, or they saved that for Indiana or Illinois? I don't know.
Texas at Oklahoma is your 5. Texas, Oklahoma is 5. Oregon at Michigan, Alabama at Oklahoma. I don't know if I'd have that one so high. Texas at Michigan is the other one that I think deserves to be significantly higher because of the ramifications from that. And you got Georgia at Ole Miss and Georgia Clemson. It says Georgia at Clemson, which is not what it is. And then Bama at Tennessee, and then Tennessee at Georgia. Those are the ones that are all in the sort of top 12. Those are all of Georgia's games. Some other games that jump out to me, a couple of slots down, Alabama at LSU. Surely that's bigger than Georgia Clemson, right?
I think so. I think it's a big year for LSU. So I've got that game circled personally.
Michigan at Ohio State. Certainly that's bigger than Georgia Clemson, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that bigger than Georgia Ole Miss? Isn't that bigger than? I mean,
are people writing off Michigan? Is that why people don't expect them to do much of anything? And I kind of get that, but still, I mean, they're not going to be bad.
Notre Dame at Texas A&M here is, I think, number 18. They've got. What's so strange and difficult about this, Matt? And it's hard. We don't know what the quote biggest games are each year, and it's hard to say that in June. You know what I mean? Like, if I were to ask you who's Georgia's most difficult foe coming into the season, who would you say between Texas, Alabama, and Ole Miss?
Probably Texas right now.
Okay. I would say, I would maybe still say Alabama, but it wouldn't be insane to look back on the season and say, man, that trip to Oxford was their toughest game, right?
Yeah.
That's the hardest part. Go ahead.
Is the Georgia-Alabama game more important to Georgia fans? Or exactly. But I think Texas is better than Alabama, so I think that's a tougher game. But I think the Alabama game might be more important for obvious reasons. I mean, Georgia's tired of losing to them. I think the team and the fans tired of losing to Alabama. That might be the more important game, but I think Texas will be the tougher game.
All right, make sure you're checking out SoPoly, 478-374-6398. We've talked about this a lot. They've got these different collections. Everybody, EcoPoly is SoPoly now. Look at all these, there are a zillion places that you can pick up. What's your zip code up there, Matt?
30062.
And we're just going to do this live. 30062 up here. I'm doing something wrong because obviously you don't live in South Korea. But
no.
Not currently.
Not yet.
You wouldn't be able to be on the internet. Urban Hardware up in North Fulton and Alpharetta, you can pick up SoPoly stuff there. So the names have changed. Everything's still made in Georgia. Everything's still made in Eastman and Dodge County. Everything's still made by Georgians. Everything is still the great quality. The name's just different. They want you to check out the dealers, which are all throughout the Southeast. Looking at the Southeast here, Tennessee at Oklahoma. I'm not sure I buy that as a giant game. Georgia Clemson's probably too high. Although I will say this, Matt. I think that might be the only ACC, like Florida State, Clemson is not on this list. That might be the only ACC game on this list, like including an ACC team. So perhaps you could make the argument there that I don't know. What do you think? What is your biggest game of this season? Ohio State or Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon at Michigan. What do you think? You tell me. Texas, Michigan.
I feel like I want to say Georgia, Texas, but I don't think the loser of that game is really going to matter much. So if that makes sense, it's not going to be this detrimental, we lost that game, what do we do now? Whoever loses that game is going to be in a really good spot either. But it still goes back to me. I mean, Michigan, Ohio State is always gigantic. But if Georgia can't lose to Florida, Florida doesn't. If they lose to a bad Florida team, they're in a worse spot than if they lose to Alabama or Ole Miss or Texas. So you talk about the most important games, it's still probably Florida for, obvious reasons. And the fact that that's not a team that is going to look good on your resume if that's the team that you lose to. But there's a lot. I know I'm not super sold on Oklahoma just yet. I don't think you are either. But we'll see. I think too many people are maybe forgetting about LSU, as crazy as that sounds. And I thought Miami was supposed to be back to relevancy anytime soon. No one's still talking about Miami. We'll see. I think we'll see what they in Florida are capable of week one.
There's no Nebraska on here either, or Colorado. I mean, all of the teams of the '90s. Tennessee's on here a few times, 3 times at least. Oklahoma, I don't know, but for me, I do wonder if we've overdone it with the Texas thing a little bit. And I don't mean that as bad towards Texas. It's just like, if you look at Sark's entire tenure as a head coach, I think he only has one season where he's got 10 wins. And that's at USC and at Texas. So are they surging, or was that an anomaly? We'll see this season. Thanks for watching.